Okay, hi again everybody, it's only me, Wushu Richard, with another short little talk video this time. Okay, I've got some real deep talk videos coming up I want to do, talking about some good topics, but it's a brief one here. I've got a nice cup of tea, okay, because I'm English as you know, so tea. That's like red tea in Chinese, got black tea in English, but it's like, you say just red tea or black tea with milk and sugar. Real good. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I want to say, okay, basically, in this video we're going to talk about something, okay, it's learning by our mistakes. We're going to talk about learning from mistakes. This topic I could have actually anyone can bring up this topic, and people talk about this all the time. You've got to learn from your mistakes, and then sometimes you've got more questions like how are we supposed to learn from our mistakes, and do we learn from the actual situation itself, what happened, the set of circumstances of what actually happened in such a random situation, as all situations are, where you were, what people were around at the time, and it could be anything, and then what you did, what you were thinking, what you said, what your actions were, why, and everything about that, and that might even be a complicated thing in itself. So, but people do say you have to learn from your mistakes, this and that, and there's different aspects of it, but so it's not easy really for me to make a video and talk about that. What am I supposed to do? Talk about a million different experiences I've had in my life. There's loads that I've forgotten, I'm sure, but it's very hard for me to think of experiences now and just for the sake of a video and talk about that and give examples as though you should be following in some kind of a way. That's not the point. That's not what I'm trying to do. But nevertheless, I do believe that we should still study from our experiences, and especially study to be more wise, even if we don't learn much exactly about the experience, and even if we learn that every experience will be different, the different things that do happen in our life to follow. You're never going to have the same experiences again, right? Exactly as what you've had. But we can learn, and I think we learn, and the way we think, it comes in natural time to every person, and depends on what you're thinking and how you're thinking at any moment. Who knows what you'll be thinking tomorrow afternoon, or at the same time it is now, like tomorrow. What will you be thinking? What will you be doing? Or on a certain date at a certain time, where you'll be in the future and what you'll be thinking, and if you ever will come back to remember a certain moment in your life. Some moments have just gone, lots of moments have just gone in your life, and the chance of learning anything as well either, but you've learned other things along the way. But it's like I believe that we should learn from our experiences. We should try to take especially meaningful points, even if it's hard to find them, but we should sometimes try to find points of such which are more meaningful, if you know what I mean, yeah? Find those things, look carefully and realistically and see what we can gain from those memories we do remember, especially if they are mistakes. So we're talking about learning from our mistakes. And even if that, when I say it may not have been a total mistake in full, because I've always been one to stand up for saying, I always stand up and say you shouldn't always regret as such, because there are no mistakes really. It's like nobody really, if you're following your heart at that time, you think what you're doing is right. Right? So back then you may have done something which you look back on now as foolish or wrong, but at the time you thought it was right, yeah. And it's not only about thinking it's right or wrong, it also on your attitude, but it also depends on actually your knowledge of the situation. It's like, oh, I was such a fool to trust him or trust her, what's that supposed to mean? You don't have a clue what that's supposed to mean even, why did you? You don't just say, that because that person was a liar, I didn't know it was that kind of a person. That's not the point. It's too easy now. You're labelling people, calling them liars or this or that and different things. Sets of things happen and your mind's thinking. So, yeah, your mind can lead you into real physical trouble in the real world, in real life. But it's like, you should be able to separate. For me, I'm like a person who, I'm honest, I'm not being funny, I have like almost infinite patience. I don't know how, but I'm tolerant, very tolerant with people, and it's like, I feel like I'd easily be able to separate. I always am easy to separate and put things down, whereas other things might shock certain people or distress certain people. With me, I don't want to sound heartless as such, but certain things don't really seem to bother me. I'm so in tune with like reality and knowing that what I'm thinking is something different to outside of me. You know, I understand myself as an individual being. You know, so you've got to learn that. I feel that you've got to learn to be able to break away from letting your thoughts get attached to things which are not worth it as such. And especially in the moment when you're like doing things, you need to really watch what you're doing and see carefully and study the whole thing. But as long as you don't lose your mind and act irrationally. But this is, now we're going a bit of a tangled web. We're going spiraling out of control in this in this topic here, as you can see. So what I'm trying to say is, but we, looking back on it, and then it's the same thing. You don't want to go thinking back and regretting and then go thinking a load of crap. What the fuck am I talking about? Excuse me. So anyway, what am I saying then? I'm going to just give you a couple of very, very simple-ish examples that are totally different. One example is I've got my hot cup of tea here. It's fantastic. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, guy. Just like a mummy used to make, you know what I'm saying? Basically, I'm just saying that I remember a couple of years back, a couple of years ago, when it was really funny because I love my tea, and I was at home. We were staying somewhere else. We were staying in another place, in another part of China, me and my wife. And there was this glass, what do you call it, like a jug, but it was made of glass jug thing, and it was glass, and it had a lid on it as well. And because I drink so much tea, and so was my wife drinking a lot of the time, we was very thirsty. So it was like, okay then, let's just, boil a big, because we didn't have like a proper teapot as such. Well, fucking get one, man. I'm just saying, I really... It was like, we was using this glass jug, and it was kind of thickish, seemingly. This glass, not that thick. It was like, it didn't seem like it was like weak. What I'm going to say, right? And it was like, my wife was assuring me that it's totally fine, that we just use that. And I said, isn't that for like you cold drinks usually, like orange juice or some kind of, He said, that's all right. You can use it. And I said, but then we were using it, and I don't know what happened. It was like the thing had a crack in it, like along the side. We obviously didn't see. One day, I just lifted the thing up. It was boiling hot. It was filled with tea, and obviously it was hot. And we were brewing this tea in this thing, and anyway, the thing just smashed. The bottom came out from it, and the thing just exploded. Glass and scalding hot water everywhere. Burned my leg a little bit. One of my trousers, pants if you're American, trousers, right? And it was like, it was crazy. So that was an experience, and I think we had two that broke. Another one was actually broke, but that was like it was just broken anyway. I think, but then that was the one I remember though. The one that actually was filled up with hot tea or hot water. I was brewing some tea up. The thing just smashed. It just fell apart. I picked out another pieces of glass were there, big pieces of glass too. And I thought to myself, shit, mate, what are we gonna do? We're gonna call up E.T.'s friends to come and pick me up and call home. No, I really don't. And that was like, and that was an experience to me. It was like, looking back, that was just something funny and something simple that happened. But it was like we should have used a proper like teapot or something. But it was like thinking back though, it's like that was dangerous as fuck. Scalding hot water, and it was like big pieces of glass too. If you would like slashed yourself or cut yourself really badly on a big piece of glass, you know what I mean? Can you imagine? So, so you learn to be more observant in your life in what you're actually doing. And if something does seem a bit weird or something does seem a bit wrong, don't just go and just, we'll use this for the sake of it or do this or that. Just saying, you know what I mean? It could be just little things, you know what I mean? Nothing. It's like it could happen to anyone, So you've got to imagine, and focus on what you're doing. Now another one, I'm going to give you another example, okay, is an example of things that have happened in my life. I won't tell you in too much detail, okay, I won't tell you in too much detail, because it's like it's personal stuff, it's nothing, it's like back in the past in history, but it's not really important to me. But I'll say this, right, to anyone out there, and this is a very, very big one and a very good one. Don't always trust people. And that sounds so like it goes without saying, right? But and I'm sorry if this video seems a little bit longer now, okay, than I said, but don't go around just trusting people for the sake. What I mean by that is, some people can come across like really, really nice, or some people, you may be like really desperate in some kind of situation, someone's going to help you in some way, or there's some benefit, I'll say that, in some way or another. Be it the person themselves, you didn't imagine them to be what you thought they would be, but you go to meet someone, let's say, for the first time in your life, you know, you've never met, and some people do, they will like travel far. Let's give you an example, that you might travel very, very far to meet somebody, for example, and you may be left in the shitter. That's what I'm basically saying like that. So this can be for anybody out there, right? For any different reason. I'm sure you can imagine and think of some, you know. Human beings in general, though, are very, very funny, and the emotion and the mind and how things can drive you in your mind, thinking different things. Sometimes human beings, it's amazing how human beings can be based on their heart. You know, it's like their mind and body doesn't work together. It's like the mind and heart's not in the same place, and it's like your emotions can get the better of you, and sometimes human beings can act so fucking stupid and so irrational, illogical. It's like from a human point of view, you'll be finding all kinds of excuses to make it okay. You know, you can justify or injustify anything if we want to. We can find a way. We're masters of it with language. We're masters of taking care of ourselves for the worst in certain situations, it seems. But also, it's amazing how human beings can actually survive and get through situations. Also, the human being is an amazing thing. I think. You know, so is this cup of tea over here. I'm waiting for another gulp of that. But I'm just basically saying, you know, don't go around trusting people, and be ready, because sometimes you can tear yourself up and tear yourself down through trusting people. That's what I'll say to you there. And you can be left in the absolute shit. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there was times in my life when I think back that it happened why it happened, and I know why it happened, and plus when people are younger as well, we think differently about all kinds of different things. But it's like, I can understand why at the time, I understand what happened, but it's like a good few years back, things happened. I'm not going to go into detail, but it was like I made some foolish mistakes. I'll go into big detail, okay? And I'm talking in the like recent years too, in the last, not recent, but like in the last few years, let's say under 5 years, say around 3 years and something, maybe 4 years-ish, coming on 4 years now. It's amazing I'm saying that. That's really incredible actually saying that. But like, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I travelled far. Not far, but like I travelled further than most people would. You know, in a foreign country as well, where I am. And things happen. I'm not going to go into trouble. I'm not going to go into much detail, but the person messed me about a bit. Okay. In terms of the person wasn't what they were cracked up to be, I'll put it that way. And people can trick you. People can trick you on the spot as well. And you can get tricked out. You're messed about in different kinds of situations. But this thing kind of got to me because it was like I travelled as well. My mind was already out of it, and it was like, and I was like also in there was a time in my life where I was going through a lot of pressure myself, and I was like looking for an opening, an exit, get me an exit kind of thing, you know, like Matrix and Neo and that. Desperate to get out, you know, and this is like something that would benefit me as such. It's soon for the moment for my life, and it's really personal. I'm not going to go into much detail. It's like it's ridiculous. Looking back, it's so pathetic and cheap and casual. It's like absolutely weak. It's just foolish. But what happened was, as the person wasn't cracked up, they were all cracked up to be, you know. Cracked up motherfucker on crack, bitch. What's happening when I come at it like a ninja assassin? Put my motherfucking swords out, hotter than acid, and get you slashed the fuck up. It's a brand new couple of katanas. The same old bloody rap lyrics you hear me going on about off and on. But what I'm trying to say, right, is you know, bastard. But you know, anyway, this person weren't all I thought, you know, and it was like It was weird, the whole thing. So what I'm saying though is, you have to look back on every situation and see where you're at now and think to yourself, okay, whatever happened, happened. Now I can be more logical in my life, and I'm here, and I'm actually still here, and I'm alive, I'm alive. And so it didn't affect me, it didn't destroy me, I didn't destroy myself, you didn't commit suicide or anything, no one killed you as such, and so you're here now, and you can think back, but the dark memories and the useless things you can chuck away, but it's like, you can think, and it's like we said before, the mind, the emotions and all of that, it's nothing. It really can be something on this side. You can think something else and do something else. It's like that key for the door, or how you actually do something, that's what matters. But anyway, thinking back though, just briefly on the side, I'm so happy that I wasn't in more danger, or things didn't end up so much more worse, or I'd be in danger as such. And basically I put myself in a situation where I didn't have a damn clue what was going on really, and it was kind of dangerous. And it's like, you hear it said, like, even like in the movie Karate Kid 2 again, when the bad guy, who's like one of the instructors, he says to Daniel LaRusso, he says, extreme situations require extreme measures, like drastic. It's true. You understand it, and it makes sense. It always did make sense though too. It's like still, it's like in life, drastic situations. When you need to act drastically, sometimes you need to really go the full path. You need to do it. Go the whole hog, whatever they say. You have to really do it like you mean it. You can't be hesitating and say, you have to go for it and say, well, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to be proper, keep moving forward no matter how hard I get hit, like Rocky says, and go for it and say, I don't care what happens, I'm going to go for this thing, You can't be hesitant. I mean, even like me coming to China, even like, it's been 10 years now, I was asked coming from a young fucking point of view as well, excuse my language, being 20 something, now I'm 33, but you know what I mean? And coming from that and just, I give up, and then my whole life changed for the better too, you know what I mean? So it's like, you have to make that choice, you have to make the decision, you have to act upon it. You can't think, in a fight, what am I going to punch with this, how punch it, you've got to do it, because otherwise it's, you know what I mean? You've got to act, because otherwise it's not going to happen. You have to get on that bus before it drives away, it's like. But it's, if you do, you're on it, right? It's like, before you arrive, go further, if you find that you don't like the journey, or you don't like the person you're sitting next to, you can always choose to get up or get off the bus, at any time. So study the situation while you're in it, and always try to be logical. And it's like really hard to sometimes in certain situations, but it's like, especially to see that when your mind's so out of it and you're focused on something else, it's crazy, and you can be very illogical and irrational. But so what I'm trying to say is though, when things are progressing, any situation, you can see though the steps, and as you're going through things, as you're going through it, keep studying it and say, should I stop here or should I continue to move forward? That's the most important thing you should do. Change and learn and be more wise. You have to be more wise, and not many people can do it unless you're like a monk or whatever, and you really don't give a damn about you. When you really don't care and deal with what we would call normal human emotions sometimes, or like with dealing with other human beings or in society, unless you're able to really master yourself, like Zen and like monk training, or like we're able to like really shut everything off. But I mean, you see, I mean, emotions, natural, and the mind. I mean, you can lose it in some situations. Whether you're an army soldier at war, or and they have to be so focused and maintain their focus all the time, But it's like, or prisoners, the same thing in prison when different things happen. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's very hard to stay focused and concentrate at the time. And we're really talking about though learning from your experiences in this video. I'm saying learning from your mistakes. Learn that you're still here, and now to make better choices and be more clear and more mature as we get more and more mature as we're growing older, right? You've got the young years and then the older years in your life, let's say, but you know what I mean? But you've got, you've got that, you can keep learning and improving yourself, becoming more clear and more wise and logical and reasonable, I should say more just wise and smart in yourself as you're going on. But it's like, for me though, I look back and I think, I'm so happy that nothing really terrible did happen. Another thing I can say, right, is people that commit suicide or self-harm, this really is so low to me. This I really cannot understand that. That's just really pathetic to me. If you've done that, if you've like not committed suicide obviously, but if you've tried to self-harm or attempted that, I don't know what kind of stages you were at in your life, but I know that I was in some extreme, as I've just mentioned, something happened. I'm not going to go into detail at that time. I know what you mean, like the mind and the pressure you might have had, and then your upbringing, all kinds of things might, affect on let a person develop such uncontrollable ways of thinking. I don't know the best way to put it, but it's like I don't know. It's like, but for me, as I say, I've always been wise in that sense because I've always loved life. I've always loved positive, creativeness, communication. Life. Nobody likes pain. Nobody likes of any kind. Nobody likes. Everybody knows life, right? So I love life. I have never, and I never would, and never will, and I have never smoked, or drunk alcohol, drink alcohol. I have tried, some beer and that, but I just don't fucking like it. Just because I don't know what I was pushed in that moment with somebody else, but I tried a little bit of it. But I don't drink beer, I don't drink alcohol, I don't smoke, I don't drink alcohol, I don't take drugs. I've never done any of that. You understand me? I regard all of this as self-harm. Also, I've never. I've done silly actions and stuff, such as like give myself a punch in the. I give myself a black eye one time. I'm quite a crazy guy, just punching myself, and I was like, because I got in such a temper with some people, some arrogant people, and it's like I was saying, "Come on in, you want to give me this abuse which they were giving me," and I was saying, "You want to get into a fight?" Come on, I was like so pissed off at that time, I went mad, and I was like punching myself in the face, saying, "Come on, give me your best shot," kind of thing. I was like really off on one. And it was like I was like absolutely extreme in that martial mode, if you like, saying, "Come on," but it was like that's ridiculous. I made, so looking back, I've got a lot of regrets when I've lost my temper for silly things or done little things like that. That's still ridiculous. Other things I've done which are like just pathetic and foolish and silly actions I've done, like I'm not going to tell you in too much detail because it's just not. It's not really. It's not really necessary. But I've done silly actions or gestures to people which would leave people absolutely in their society, in their kind of mindset. Because most people follow this zombie society anyway. But like, so most people's eyes, it would seem like I'm crazy or so. They wouldn't understand it. But I was trying to put a message across to people saying that you're so fucking ignorant, But the thing is, I've done the things like the biggest regrets, kind of in some way, would be like having. I've really tried to like prove myself so much. Not prove, but I've been fighting so hard to let others understand me. When sometimes you've got to learn to back down and say, well, look, they think the way they do. And if people want to disrespect you and be rude and mean, then that's the way they can. That's the way it's going to be, and you just got to learn to let it go, as the song goes, So anyway, I'm just saying though, learning from your mistakes though is what it's all about. So learning, especially about safety, and don't just look at a situation and say, well, what's happened, what happened. Look at it like you're here today, and were there chances that you could have been in more danger? Or worse could have happened. That's another thing you've got to think about. Well, yeah, okay, so in the future we've got to be definitely more in control and spread messages like I'm doing in this video to people, let other people be more wise too, open-minded. And other things are, when you look at certain situations, look back on certain situations, you don't see it for like the whole that situation for necessarily the chance of that, what other things could have happened in terms of it being dangerous for you or whatever, but also, because that has to be looked at. But it's like what I mean is like you think about the danger that you put yourself in first and foremost. It's like if you were in a dangerous place, think of somewhere in the world now, think of somewhere that's very dangerous. If you were there, what could happen? This could happen, that could happen, or even that could happen, or maybe nothing would happen, or maybe something even worse, or maybe something that I can't imagine. But you can think about all this, or but it's like ultimately the most important thing is if you go there or not, or if what you do, it all comes from you. So you think about the situations that you put yourself in, and learn by your mistakes, and understand that it's our mistakes. You put yourself in a certain situation, bad things happen, there's bad people, bad places, and it's like, well, hang on a minute, what can I learn? It's not a regretful thing. It's like, you didn't mean to do it. It wasn't foolish on your part. Maybe you didn't have the knowledge, or you didn't know. You was there for whatever reason. That's what I'm saying. If you did have some kind of knowledge of what might be, yes, I'm saying you've got to learn to be more wise in the future. But if you didn't have any knowledge of what it was, and it was just like you were in this place and you didn't know it was a dangerous place, let's say, for example, then you didn't know the danger. So it's a bit. So you see what I'm trying to say? But it's still teaching you to be wise and always be aware. So I'm going to stop this. Okay, this video. Just study your life. So I'll say, and think about that. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Train hard and stay safe.